Welcome to the Reset Mantra. I'm your host, Sabeena Maharjan. This podcast aims to support your journey in resetting your mind, body, and soul by sharing insightful stories and conversations with experts and guests from diverse backgrounds. My guest today is Brichaya Shah Shrestha, CEO and founder of Drift Beyond, which is a personalized one-on-one private learning platform. She's a leader in digital learning, creating personalized learning experiences for all learners. She also serves as the director of digital learning at Kennesaw State University. With more than 20 years of experience in her field, she is passionate about teaching and learning, promoting innovation in technology-enhanced learning. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Brichaya. Brichaya, a very warm welcome to our show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. So we were talking about this a little bit off camera. Perhaps we can continue from there. So you are a leader today in digital learning and innovation and AI. Tell us a little bit about your journey, from wanting to become a successful leader in this field to finally today being one.
I think it's all about being a lifelong learner. So if you are a type of a person who always like to do things differently and who's curious about knowing things differently, I think that's where the technology adoption happened. So for me, technology came on the way of learning. I've always enjoyed being on campus. I've always been part of teaching and learning. I think I was a kind of a teacher even when I was growing up. If people would ask questions, I would be one of the person explaining. I loved explaining to others. And then as I grew up, I figured out by teaching others, I was actually learning better. When it almost reinforced the learning process for me. And then the technology happened. I have a degree in technology. So the passion was driven that way. But I soon realized that the IT and IT sector is not just where I will be happy. I wanted to take my passion for technology and also for teaching and learning. So that's where the technology and instructions and teaching with technology and how do you use technology to provide instructions better happened in last 20 years. From I was talking to you about RSS feed and podcast server, the very early use of podcast and how can you use podcasts to enhance teaching and learning, to now how AI can transform the journey for teaching and learning. So throughout the last 20 years, for me, I think it's more about experiencing the process and the journey and meeting people and collaborating with people, working with people, creating memories through different innovations and building innovations, and how you actually see the enlightenment, because sometimes it's not just the technology. Sometimes when you discover things and you have those wow moments, the time that goes behind the scene and the work and the effort all pays off when you have those wow moments. And when you can share those wow moments with people across the globe and people now nationwide with online learning and digital learning and remote learning, it's quite an experience. So I've been very happy. I think that there was some kind of a dream there about becoming an educator, and then it unfolded itself in terms of transformation and digitization, and how pandemic now shift the entire globe in terms of digital learning. So it made it more exponential and more meaningful in terms of everybody now believes in online learning and personalized learning and remote work and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been beautiful.
Did you start Drift Beyond before you were engaged or involved with the university, or is it some kind of a parallel effort that you take on?
It was more of a parallel, because what happened was, this is way before online and online learning happened, where I was already working in University System of Georgia, and this is my third institution. But I was always known within the community and friends and family for somebody who loves to write, who would be more than happy to help a kid in the evening, or will be more than happy to provide feedback on somebody's college essay, or would work with somebody in terms of building profile for their college, or even work on resume. I've worked on so many kids' resume. So it almost happened like that. I tried with my own nieces and nephew and neighbors' son, and then friends of friends and friends. And soon it became that I couldn't do it alone. And then I
Mm,
started asking others, because I have access to so many teachers and educators, and say, hey, I have people who need help, but I don't think I have time for it. So then I started parsing out to others. So it didn't start as an entrepreneurship or a business. It started almost like I was already helping, and then they needed more. I was like, okay, I can't handle it. Can I give it to somebody else? Can somebody else help? So it's almost started as like community giving, and it was helping people in the community. And then somehow it shaped into more of a formal process, and became, well, people are willing to pay. What do we do? Well,
mm.
I haven't thought about it. Maybe we can get paid. So initially it was more Starbucks card and Macy's card and Kohl's gift card. And then soon it shaped into, people felt more comfortable for the quality of the work folks were doing. Like, maybe we can formalize and go from there. So it became parallel, but it became very organically. Then more as a business and entrepreneur, it became more as giving back to the community, and became formal business.
And then this coaching that you give, this is like a complementary in addition to the schooling that they already have on site, right? Okay.
Yes,
Mm,
yes. So it's all one-on-one private, based on where there are challenges. And a lot of times it's more about motivation. A lot of time it's all about strategies and test taking skills. It's all about what they may be, things they're learning in school, that they may be gaps, and they may are not opening up. Sometimes, kids don't open up in schools.
hmm.
They don't know it, they will not ask. But when you have this one-on-one private, they get to talk to somebody privately, and we keep all our conversations, and we tell kids that this is between you and the instructor. Nobody knows it except your parents, right?
Mm.
So then they eventually open up where they are have challenges, where they need help with. So, and then it's always assessing, right, where they are in terms of school. And we give a little bit of an assessment, try to assess their knowledge and see if they're fully confident, because it's all about skills and confidence. We want them to be fully confident on what they are learning, because anything that goes from one grade level into another, it's all about foundations. So if you are not fully confident in your skills and knowledge about your foundation, then you really definitely going to run into problems in a long run. So it's all about helping them with those challenges, building skills. And then a lot of times it's about boosting their morale, and then giving them the self-confidence they need so they can be successful.
I feel like being with kids, there's so much opportunity to learn from kids. However, in terms of teaching kids, I think it could be very challenging. What are some of the experiences, that you've come across where you had some kind of challenge to, um, you know, teach a kid in a way that they need to, but how do you really work with the challenges that comes up as an educator?
I think, I have to be honest. I can't teach my own kids. Beside that, I can teach everybody else's. That's the fact. Except my own, except my own kids, I have to get help from my own kids. And because I'm the mom at the end of the day, I'm not the teacher. I'm not the anyone for them, right? So, except my own kids, I think it's just the notion of being an educator. Moment there is a student in front of you and you are a teacher, they automatically, it sets a tone and an expectation, so they behave differently, or they
Mhm.
listen, they are motivated differently. I've had times where parents come to me and say, can you talk to them for a few minutes and motivate them, or tell them, or ask them to do something? And I spend 15 minutes and I get a really beautiful message the next day saying, oh, they have, transformed, they're very responsible, they're responding to our efforts differently because of you. Now, I really didn't do much, right? I
Mm.
just went and spoke to them like an adult, because that's where we practice. That doesn't matter whether you are a second grader, or whether you are a high schooler, whether you are a college student. If you treat them with the same respect they need, and then understand them from where they are coming, and then give them the trust that I'm here for you. I can help you in any shape or form. Once you are honest and transparent and you build that respect, that mutual relationship, they do open up, they do tell where they are, the challenges are, what are their strengths, what they don't like, what motivates them. And that's why that personalized one-on-one journey definitely helps, because it helps to identify that natural learning pathway and natural learning process, because learning is something pure and individual, that the way you are motivated to do something and learn and way I am motivated is going to be completely different, right?
Mm.
So when I'm with a teacher and I open up in terms of one-on-one, what motivates me, where are the places that I absolutely love and I thrive, those are my strength. But it eventually opens up, even as a second grader or a high school or a college student, they eventually tell you these are the places I really need help with. This is the one I'm not 100% sure, because it's all by learning by doing. And that's how that building that trust, building that relationship, and putting yourself in that student's shoes and what that student is going through is very helpful, very important at first, and becomes very helpful in the journey for them, for us to tackle on any challenges. So yeah, I haven't had any situations where they wouldn't do it. I mean, sometimes we all are humans, they have days they don't want to do it. That's fine, give it a time, come back, we're right here. Everybody deserves a break, right? So people have good days, bad days, they want to do things and they're motivated on certain days and they are not, which is perfectly okay, we all are humans. And then other than that, as long as we show that enthusiasm, that care and respect towards whoever is the person in front of us we are teaching, we have had a pretty great success, very good success. I mean, the team works for, I tell them over and over again that yes, you have to make an impact on everyone. Yes, you need to work on the student success and their initiatives on, and what you want to do and how they are successful every day. But sometimes, maybe just one, if you can just make a small slight impact on one person, that's more than enough. It's okay, you made the day, you made a difference in one person's life. So it's just working towards it in one step at a time and one day at a time. And then with that positive mindset, saying how can I help. And I'm very fortunate to work with that type of team members who are truly passionate, who really wants to make a difference, who are here for a reason, and who will do everything, like as much as those students wants to be successful, these teachers wants to make them successful, will do everything to make them successful. So I think it's a mutual relationship and the mutual way of thinking and doing the job. So yeah, I would say a great success working with a lot of kids with their motivation and their drive.
I understand that, you are a huge advocate of EQ, like emotional quotient or emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit about, well, first thing, when was the first time you felt the need to be aware about emotionally intelligent? How did this become your subject of interest?
I think when I started managing people,
Mm.
which is quite some time ago. When I started working, it's different when you are given a responsibility and you do the work and turn it in, than when you start working with people, right? You have to be mindful of how you speak, what you say, when you say it, what you write. So you are suddenly now more conscious about your decisions. And so, as I grew my career in leadership, in managing people, along with technology, and then when you are not just you're working with the core team, you're working across and you're working across different areas and different departments and organizations, and then people across the globe, you have to be very mindful about your own self, and then you have to try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And so empathy was, I think, there was something inside of me as a person, maybe culturally or somewhere in my home I was brought up with, as an empathetic person. It was in me, but it became more prominent through EQ, because EQ has several other factors and other components. I mostly resonate in terms of empathy. And then also in terms of self regulations and self awareness, because if I am a person inside and if I am not happy, I cannot make other people happy. Forget about anyone else in the world, right? I would not make anyone else happy at home, whether my husband or my mom or my kids or my family or anyone, right? So being self-aware of myself and who am I inside and what I like to do, what my journeys, what I can handle and what I can't handle during the career and the trajectory and all of that. And then also about how I put myself in somebody else's shoes and see things from their point of view before making any judgment call, right? So through the practice, I think empathy has been a very number one factor and number one element discussed in some of our teachers training, because
Mm,
I definitely wanted the teachers to have that empathy towards students, because they go through a lot. They go through huge transformation at home, in a single parent home, right? They have a lot of things going on at school. There are a lot of things that are happening in social media. So kids go through a lot these days. So you got to put yourself in that kid's shoes and see things from their point of view. And then the other thing is also important is it's okay to fail.
mm,
It's okay to get a bad grade, right? And I tell the teachers, it's, I understand you work all months long, and then suddenly the students goes in and they blow the exam and come, you want to react, it's human. But having that slight of a moment, how you react will impact that child's life, right?
mm,
And say, it's okay, I got 50s too, look, I turned out to be fine. I
mhm,
had 50 in my high school. I had C's in my college. I turned out to be fine. Sometimes some things takes longer. Sometimes you have to work extra harder. Sometimes it takes multiple attempts. Nothing works. Sometimes, if you land on the moon, how many attempts it took, how many lives it took, right?
mm,
So if you
mm,
give that kind of an example and say, look, you have to keep working hard, you have to keep working towards it, and I'm here for you. I understand you had a certain expectation, I had a certain expectation, you wanted to score really high and you didn't achieve that. It's okay, we can
mm,
try again. There may be places that we still need to work on, and sometimes things takes longer and everyone's different. So it's okay. So having that conversation will change that student's life, because what we don't want to raise and what we don't want to project as teaching and learning is everything has to be perfect and you have to make a perfect score, right?
mm,
There is nothing in life that's perfect, as much as a standardized test or as much as a quiz or a midterm or whatever it is, right? Sometimes things takes longer, sometimes it takes multiple steps. It's okay to fail. What is important is how do you rise yourself, how do you dust yourself and say, okay, I got to do this again, take a break,
mm,
come back, we'll do it again. It's okay. So that's exactly what I want to project on, that's exactly what I want to emphasize on. Even when we are doing math, I tell the teachers, I emphasize that teach them multiple ways. And that's all about critical thinking skills and logical thinking skills and problem solving skills is so important in the world of artificial intelligence now. You can solve the same problem in many ways. And it is a life skill, like how you are saying that as a kid growing up, if your mind is trained to solve the problem in multiple ways, and when you grow up as an adult, when you are stuck on a problem, you're not going to be like this. You're going to see the problem from a different perspective and different view and say, okay, if it doesn't work this way, I'll try the other way. If it doesn't work that way, I'll try the. So that's exactly what I'm trying to emphasize through some of the problem solving and real world problems. So they are trained in mind to look at the problem, try to solve them in multiple ways possible, and figure it out and not give up on one problem, either run away from the problem or just give up with one solution.
mm. You talked about how you emphasize on the kids to become a problem solver and shift their perspective, looking at a problem, saying, okay, it's a big deal. I have to make sure that I um, accomplish it. I have to be good, but then kind of allowing them to take a step back, reset themselves and coming back tomorrow with a fresh perspective and saying it's just a problem, you just solve it and that's it. I think that's in itself is a, how you're training kids not just to solve the problem, but then also their personal development of taking that skill. I'm pretty sure, everything kids learn in school, they're also applying in their personal life as well, right? Especially
Yeah.
when they grow up. And we talked about this, how these things, little things that we learn as a kid, little things or conversations that we have as a kid with elders in the family or teachers, how they end up becoming a self-talk when we grow up. I think all of those are, touching on you're basically coaching them to become a empowered adult, what I would say, and also making them aware about the AI. And I cannot imagine what the kids today go through, because when I was growing up, and I'm pretty sure same for you, the AI wasn't there. I even didn't have a phone until I was 15, like when I passed, my high school. It was all books and pens and papers. So the amount of information overload the kids today have, through internet, everything's available, knowledge and all kind of information. I'm pretty sure it's very challenging, to be an educator in this field to today's age, and I'm pretty sure that not all kids are equally easy or a follower. Kids are very creative, right? They question us, and sometimes when my niece, who is 9 years old, and I have conversation with her, she's in Nepal, and sometimes she asks me questions and I have to really think because I can't just say anything, right? So I always tell her, let me come back. So and I Google and I think of different scenarios, because no matter how much I'm prepared, she will always have that another big question. And I want to make sure that, I'm fulfilling my responsibility by telling her the right information.
Well, I don't interact with students on daily basis. The teachers do, but I also, just going back to reset, right? I also try to ingrain something when I meet, when I coach. I do Science Olympiad coaching. I love spending time with kids, mine and others. Mine vacation, others I love to teach because I see the transformation. I'm sure they get to learn from me too, but eventually it will unfold maybe in few years and say, "Oh, this is what I learned from my mom." But what I also tell them, my kids and others, is like, put your 100% forward.
Mm,
If you give your 100%, doesn't matter what the outcome is. You put your 100% forward. Did you do that or not? You have no room to complain if you did not put your hard work and 100% forward. If you put your 100% forward and it still didn't cut, it's somebody else's loss, not yours. You did your part of the job. So I try to convey that message to folks, especially when I work with young kids and say, you put your hard work, you put your honest effort forward. You have to tell yourself, did I put that 100%? Did I give my 100%? And after that, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. You've done your
mhm,
part of the job, right? And so I think having that mindset, being raised and say, look, I did my 100%, it doesn't matter. If somebody else doesn't see it, that's their problem. So that also helps a lot of kids in terms of, they're like, okay, I'll work hard, right? And that's what I hear from majority of the parents, saying they are putting that effort, and that's all that matters. Sometimes it's just the effort that counts, right? Then the result itself. Because in terms of AI, so it's a huge cultural shift. It's a huge shift in terms of American culture, where the American culture is driven by the product, right? Whereas when it comes to working with AI, and especially in teaching and learning, it's all about process. It's all about your mindset. It's all about your opinions, your attitude, your ideas, your thinking, your logical reasoning, and how it comes together. And AI can help shape things to bring it together as a final product. But it's the process and the journey, because the process is driven by human, the process is created by human. It's the human intelligence, it's the emotional intelligence that drives the process. So it's, I think the whole notion of AI in teaching and learning is shifting the mind from the product to the process itself, and helping
mm,
the students learn about the process than the product. You're not just prompting and getting a response and getting an end product, but what are you prompting, when are you prompting, how are you changing your prompt, and how your prompt engineering and the response and the framework helps you to become a better person, and show how your process has evolved. Because at the end of the day, you have a mindset, you have a goal in your mind for that product. Did AI work for you? So as you
Mm.
know, a lot of people have said, make AI work for you. Did AI work for you? So how do you employ AI to do the job that may make things easier for you? But it's all about process, it's all about creativity, it's all about critical thinking and logical thinking and problem solving, and being the person, being the voice that tells the machine what needs to be done for the final product, than just focusing on what you get at the end.
That is so important. And for anybody who's listening and has kids or planning to have kids, I don't have kids yet, but I'm going to save this for my future reference. I really loved how you talked about this, and it's an important conversation to have, right? In today's world of AI, how we train kids about the use of AI. It's not that the AI is going to replace us. Humans will always um, be the dominant force, right? And I loved how you said that you were having these conversations with kids about how, as a kid, as a human, we can use AI. Did AI help you? It's
Mhm.
not the other way, right? You
Yeah.
are still that key driver. And you're
Yeah.
also helping them shape their identity as you're a human.
Yep.
So this is what a human would do. The AI, this technology, suffice your need, or maybe not, then how can we better use it for our benefit? So I think that's a very important lesson, or a training, or a culture that we
Yeah.
can provide kids today, be it in US or around the globe, right? Especially with
Around
the
the globe.
AI.
Yeah, and I've told people get ask me questions saying, can my kid go in and just prompt an essay saying write an essay, and then the chat GPT will write it, what will happen? And what I really encourage folks these days to have those creative conversation with kids, right? Because their imagination is huge. They
Hmm.
have a wide imagination. So fostering that imagination, fostering that creativity is so critical these days. If we don't allow that environment, if we don't provide opportunities to be creative and foster those imagination, yes, you'll get a product from an AI. The chat GPT will write an essay for you. But if the kid has that creativity and kid has that imagination can be employed. That imagination can be used along with AI. There's nothing wrong with it, right?
Right,
You
right.
can bring images of AI, right? AI can create the image for your child's essay based on, and it is very transformative to see how, and we have done some research on, and how the mind concepts and mind mapping can be brought in together, and how you can go into a logical flow of process and creativity and critical thinking and imagination, and then how you create a product at the end, right?
Mm.
So fostering that imagination, fostering that creativity, providing room for critical thinking. And then, like you said, little kids ask questions. It's okay. Everyone is entitled to ask questions, you know. So
Hmm.
it's important to ask that questions. Everyone has to have that questions. Not everybody has an answer for a question you have, but it's important to ask the questions, because more you ask questions, more it helps you to become creative and imaginative, and then have become a better person in terms of critical thinking skills.
Absolutely. Briksha, I know you, in addition to being a CEO, a founder, a leader in digital and innovative career space, you're also a mom, a wife, and a mentor. From where I see, it's a pretty challenging place to be. How do you handle it all? How do you balance all those areas and still remain so happy and calm, as I can see you in video?
You know, I think I have the same role across. I'm still, I am a half CEO at home. My husband is the better half. And there, I like to delegate because people ask this question to me all the time. How do you manage? How do you do it? How do you do it alone? And I tell them, I don't do it alone. I can't do it alone. There is no way I can do it alone. There are certain things that I do where I am more about the vision and the dream and the idea, and then I have help, right? Whether it is at home, whether at Kennesaw State, whether it in Drift Beyond, I do try to get help. I do try to delegate. And I think one thing I like to do is I like to communicate, right? Because if I clearly communicate at home where I need help are like today, I have two kids at home, dog, mom, and husband. I told them, I am here with you. Please keep the noise down as much as possible. And they behaved, right? So if I would not say that to them, if they did not know, then maybe we would have interruptions. So small things like that. I like to communicate very clearly to them. And I told them, I'll be done. After that, I'm all yours. So they are there. They know I am ready for them when they need me. And same thing at work, right? I have a certain expectation, I have a certain ideas, I have certain set goals. I started my career very early on as a project manager. I think I was naturally a person who likes to organize, even for a small get together to gatherings to big events to big launches to big implementation. I like to plan, I like to backward design it, I like to work on it, I have to see it. I like to be the first one out the door whenever I can. I like to be on time. So those type of things, I think it's more habitual, it's habit. And then it's also about delegating and trusting people. Like if I try to do everything at Kennesaw State and try to monitor every little thing people are doing, it's not possible, right?
Mm,
There is a certain level of accountability, there's a certain level of transparency, there's a certain level of responsibility, and a certain level of trust, right? And it's also about as I mentioned earlier, about emotional intelligence and psychological barrier, and building that trust that I treat my team members as family. I'm there whenever they need. They need to take off. They can give me a call and say, Brichaya, I can't work today. I'd
mm,
rather have somebody take a day off. No reasons. It's okay. Sometimes people just need a mental day. You don't have to be sick, right?
mm,
Always. You can take a mental day. You can get up in the morning and you are in a just not a mood. And I'd rather have that individual take a day, that team member take a day, rest, rejuvenate, do something, take time, self care, and come back next day. I
mm,
rather have that. So I have that kind of a relationship where people can be very honest with me and say, I can't work today. It's okay. I can't turn on my camera today. That's all right. Sometimes
mm,
we don't want to be on camera. That's perfectly
mm,
fine.
mm,
So building that relationship at work across everyone and keeping a certain like nice and kind and sweet and gentle and respectful yet firm. I'm a very firm leader. When it is a deadline, there's a deadline. When there's certain things are needed, certain things are needed. Even as a CEO, I expect teachers to have certain trainings, making sure in terms of standards and compliance and regulations and what we do, how we teach, what we teach, certain things. I want to make sure the quality is not compromised at any cost. But then at the same time, I really prioritize relationship, humanizing the environment, and then delegate. So whether at home, I do have lots of help at home. Like for Drift Beyond, I only manage the teaching and learning. And then
mm,
I tell them, I tell every place I go, I tell everyone that, behind every woman, every man, there's a successful, behind every successful man, there's a woman. For me, behind my success, there is a man behind it, right?
mm,
So I only take care of the teaching and learning aspect of Drift Beyond because that's what I'm passionate about. I like to serve the community. I like to give back to the community. I like to give back to people in the community, whether here or in Nepal. And then my experience in terms of teaching and learning and research may shape the training and professional development. That's what I enjoy. But anything in terms of technology, behind the scene infrastructure, marketing, finance, all of that is handled by my husband. He's the
mm,
CTO. So he handles that. So there is a delegation. I don't do everything for Drift Beyond. There's only, I have a very small job in Drift Beyond, very small. I only handle that part of my job, and I let other people do their job because I don't want to do other people's job.
Mm.
And I let them do theirs, they let me do mine. And I'm happy in my job. And the same thing at home. I have a lot of help at home. I have a mom. I'm very fortunate that she's here with us, and I have two beautiful kids. They're responsible. There are certain things they do. I tell them, if you can take the toys out, you can put the toys back in. You can throw the shoes out, you can throw the shoes in. So
Mm-hmm.
I delegate things at home. So people ask me, oh, how do you do everything? No, I don't do everything. I delegate, I get help, I ask help, and then I do manage time too. I'm self-organized and manage time as the project manager at home, which helps.
It sounds like, from what I heard, it's more about having that clear expectation, communicating what your expectations are, delegating, and then also trusting people that they will do their job, right? Not trying to control, you just kind of play the role of that leader and showing them directions and just letting things happen,
Yeah, and then
trusting.
what I would definitely suggest, I tell a lot of people who are rising leaders, I tell them is sometimes things will go wrong. It's okay.
Mm,
Do not react. It's hard. It's hard not to react. Sometimes things will blow up, sometimes things will go wrong. Do not react, because that's when the relationship either breaks or makes, right?
mm,
So if something goes wrong, your team did something, and there's a, life happens, and there's a slight problem, it's okay. Don't react. Okay, just at that moment, right? Anytime in a personal life too. Sometimes things doesn't go our way. You don't react. Wait for the right time to
mm,
communicate that, and that's
right.
exactly have been my practice. That there has been time things blow up, and I don't react and say, okay, that's all right, that's fine, even though
It's
I know
very
it's all right.
challenging.
Oh, it's
And it's very challenging. I feel like, I know you touched around, EQ and empathy. And then I was, in my mind, when I think of not reacting to the emotions that arises within us, right?
yeah.
Sometimes I feel like the topic of emotional intelligence, if I had learned about this when I was a kid, I don't know in what ways my adulthood or my life today would be different. But I'll be honest, I wasn't very aware you can actually learn to manage your emotions. You can train yourself, and with practice, just like you said, you can actually gain that emotional mastery, as spiritual gurus call it. But now, the more I talk about it and more I talk to people like you who are practicing it, advocating it, and talking about implementing those concepts, be it in workplace, in personal life, I think it has made personally a huge benefit in my life, where I can now not think about controlling, but just staying in my present state, learning how to better manage my emotions. And I think there's so much peace.
It is like any tool you use, more you use it, more you become better at it. But yeah,
Absolutely.
at home, sometimes EQ goes out the door because they see my highs and lows. Somebody has to see it. Some place I have to be upset to, some place I have to be down to, because I don't want them to just see my highs. I want them to see my lows. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to see the real me, off on screen and off screen. That is very important in a personal life, right? We have a professional life and a personal life, so it's very important them to see who I am off screen and who I am on screen, because I don't want just on screen face all the time 24/7 at home. That's quite draining for me.
Yeah, no, no, they get to see the real you. If there's one thing that you want people to take away from our conversation, what would you like to tell our listeners?
Empathy. I think empathy is key to everyday life. Being an empathetic leader is important. Because empathy is about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and seeing things from their point of view. So for me, it is more about practice. I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it. I'm learning. I'm growing. And I tell everyone, whether my team or folks I work with, or that I have become better year after year as I've grown in the space. That I myself is evolving and changing as a mom, as a wife. I have to put myself in the shoes of my 13-year-old that I'm raising. My husband and I are raising two beautiful girls here. So it's completely different. It's a huge shift for us. And I try to understand what the kids are going through, what people at work are going through. So I think empathy is the biggest thing, because I think that put us and was a glue during pandemic, because I myself have little kids at home and I was working, juggling the same thing for other people, right? And I always told them, it's okay if you can't finish it right now. I understand you have kids at home. You still have to cook. You can't go out. As long as the job is done, it's perfectly okay, because I had to put myself in their shoes. So empathy is number one. I would really encourage folks to encourage in a way that they go out there and study more about being an empathetic person and being an empathetic leader, and how empathy shapes the world around us, and especially even with AI and social media and information at our tips. Being empathetic through any conversations, you don't have to respond to a text, so you don't have to respond to what's happening on the social media, because suddenly empathy will help you and guide you and shape you in becoming the person. So I would highly encourage folks to invest in empathy, and of course the love of life, because that's most important. Because I tell all the younger generations that try to find the right person for you, because it's very important, because that's the huge investment. People ask me about investment, what has been my biggest investment in my life, and I tell them a little bit in terms of finances, but I always tell them that finding my husband, whom I've been with for decades now. I've known him for 25 years. We've been married for 16 years. Um, I think is the best thing, because I fell in love with somebody who understood me that time. This is who I was before, and this is who I am. And he appreciates and respects, and he understands, because for me to thrive, people see the success, people see me thrive, people see me appear, but it's without his support, without him understanding, it would not have been possible. So I am grateful that I have someone like him in my life. So investing in the right individual and investing in the right relations, and letting the relationship grow, that's also important,
Mm.
because relationship is all about, you really need to nurture and invest and spend to grow and understand together. So I'm very fortunate and very happy and fortunate, one of the blessed ones, to find the love of life. So that's important for
Mm.
above all.
Wonderful. Now, I can definitely relate and agree with all of the things you said, about showing up as an empathetic human being. It's always good to be kind to each other, right? It doesn't hurt anyone. Having the right person to spend the time, the life together, I think it's one of the most beautiful and joyful thing and a precious thing one can ever have.
I get joy in working for university system. I get joy in working with Drift Beyond. I get joy when I spend time with kids in the community. I get the joy to go and speak and be some sort of a motivation for others. But if I'm not happy, if I'm not in a great mind and a great mindset and an emotionally happier person, I can't give to others, right? So first, it's I always tell them, take care of yourself first, and then the others. So I'm
Mm.
glad I have someone who takes care of me, so I can take care of others.
Right. And it's a beautiful thing that it's a reminder that you brought up that, okay, so, take care of yourself and have a loving relationship with yourself so that you can develop that partnership with someone else. I think that kind of goes hand in hand. So wonderful. Well, Briksha, thank you so much for such a delightful conversation. I had a great time, and thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave me a review. I absolutely love reading them, and it helps other people join our little community, which is always a good thing. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Reset Mantra.